Yadadai dai 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 yadadai yadadai dai 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 yadadam yadadai dai 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 yadadai yadadai dai 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 yadai dai 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 dum yadai yadai dai 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 dum Yay, yadadai, yadadai, dai, 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 dai. Yay, yadadai, yadadai, dai, 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 dai. Yay, ayadai, yadadai, yadai, yadai. Ay, yababai, yadadai, yadai, dai, dai. Ay, 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 yadai, dai, dai, yadadai. Yadai, dai, 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 yai, dai, 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 dum. Yai, yadadai, yadadai, dai, 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 dai. 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 Ay, 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 yadai, dai, dai, yadadai, yadadai, dai, dai, dum. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, bye bye. Yadadai, yadai, yadai, yai. Yadadai, yadadai, yadai, dai, dai, yai. Yadadai, yadadai, yadai, dai, dai, yai. Bye bye. Yadai, 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 yai. Ay, 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 yadadai, yadadai, dai, dai, dai. Ay, ay, oh. Ay, yababa, yababa, yadai, dai, dai, yai, yadadai, yadadai, yadai, dai, dai, yai, yababa, yababa, yadai, dai, dai, yai, oh. Oh, ay, 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 oh. Good morning, Boker Tov. A nice late rabbi here. Actually, it's a whole bunch of chaos this morning. Nothing bad, but just weird things. I was supposed to have a funeral, and then I was not on the funeral, but nobody told me, and so I showed up there. And so anyway, here I am, back in the saddle, back with you, which is exactly where we need to be in this moment, just a little bit late. We're here. Continuing Re'eh. Let me just make sure that this went to, yes, it did. Great. Wasn't sure if it went to the YouTube because sometimes it's something strange, or it was something strange when I tried to sign on. So here we are continuing Parsha Re'eh to see. And earlier this week, on Wednesday, 2 days ago, Wisdom Wednesday, we reflected on the ways our vision determines whether we experience blessing or curse in our life. But Re'eh does not leave the conversation at the level of the individual. It pushes further. Blessing is not just what we want to see for ourselves, it's how we see one another. So later in this parsha, later in this reading, the Torah shifts focus. And it's a little different, it's a little far stretched, but I think the message is there. So we read about the remission of debt in the Shemitah year. So like, I'll refresh your memories. Land in Torah time was given. And similar to creation, for 6 years you would work the land, and on the 7th year you would give it a break. And then 7, similar to Omer, the Omer, 7 weeks, and then at the Jubilee year, there would be different rules. You'd give back the land, etc. So it's reread because, it's like, why do we read the Torah more than once? And why do we do this every year? Because we have to remind ourselves of what the things are. So it says in this week's Parsha, there shall be no needy among you. Great. This sounds almost even naive. There will always be need, and we know it. And yet, the Torah insists that we live as if it were possible. That in our community, poverty and loneliness and despair should never be ignored. Like there should be a band-aid, a salve, a resolve for each and every trial and tribulation, but for each and every purpose. And that not only should it not be ignored, but we should bear responsibility, not bear witness, but bear responsibility for lifting one another up. Okay, so in theory, and I'm sure all of us try to do this to some degree, but we're human and we only have the capabilities and capacities that we do, each of us as individuals. And so I think we do our part, but to say that there should be no, there shall sounds commanding to me, right? So like if you're not doing it, are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? Is this I don't want to call it a sin, but is this somewhere that we're missing the mark? If at the beginning of Re'eh, we're told to see the difference between a blessing and a curse, and here we're told to see each other, then to open our eyes to the person who is struggling, to the neighbor whose pain is hidden, to the needs we might otherwise overlook. I would say, okay, to see one another. There's a blessing and there's a curse. Some of us have more blessings. Some of us have more curses. Some of us have a combination of the two. The majority of us do. And we need to be able to see that in one another. The rabbis of Talmud notice that the Hebrew word ra'eh is in the singular form, see, directed at each individual, right? But almost immediately, the verse continues with plural or collective. I set before you, all of you, blessing and curse. In other words, it's to say that each one of us personally addressed. Okay, that's fair. We're all personally addressed. And then the consequences of that address are communal. Our choices are never just our own. Well, that I know. In my life, it never seems like that. What I choose to see or what I choose to ignore has the potential, or as Torah would say, it does, but we'll be a little gentler with ourselves. What I see, what I choose to see, or what I choose to ignore shapes the world in which I inhabit. So let's make it collective. What we choose to see and what we choose to ignore shapes the world that we all inhabit. This is why this Parsha, this reading, doesn't stop with private spirituality. It compels us into this social responsibility beyond ourselves. It tells us that the true blessing is not complete until it's shared, right? But we know this. You have the greatest blessings, but if you keep it to yourself, then that's great for you, but what does it do for the world? That true blessings aren't complete until we share it, and that we can't call ourselves blessed while others remain invisible. Now, we need to have grace with ourselves. You're not a bad person because you haven't shared your blessing with the person who feels unseen. So let's take that away. But there is always more that we can do with the blessings that we have. So here's a Hasidic story told of a rabbi who instructed his students to go out and find someone in need. Okay, that's not that hard. Each student returned with a different report. One found a man who was hungry, another woman who needed shelter, another child who had no shoes. But one student returned and said, "Rabbi, I couldn't find anyone in need." The rabbi shook his head and replied, "Then you have not yet learned how to see. For if you truly open your eyes, you will discover that every person is in need of kindness, of dignity, of being noticed, of being loved. To see the need is itself the beginning of the blessing. To see the need is itself the beginning of the blessing." So together, the teaching of Wednesday, of Wisdom Wednesday, which was seeing the blessing and the curse, and today's teaching, which is seeing it in each other. These two teachings form the whole vision of Jewish life. First, to see clearly the choices, that there are choices of blessing and curse in our lives, which cultivate gratitude and clarity and responsibility. And then to see compassionately the needs of others, choosing to extend our blessings outward until no one in our community is left unseen. This is a work in progress. This is that reminder that says, we can't leave the tasks behind, but they can always be a work in progress. It's not up to us to heal the world, but we can't turn a blind eye. And so when we live this way, the Torah, the dream of Torah comes true. But it comes into not truth, but reach. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit, until it becomes a lot of bits, a lot of bits. And so we begin to create this society, this culture where blessings overcome curses, where compassion dismantles despair, and where we can truly say, "There shall be no needy among you." Dear friends, we're in it together. This is not about the political world in which we live. This is not about making war a thing of the past. This is about starting right here where we are. Start it right in your own life. Figure it out. What do you have that could help someone else? And what do you have that you're maybe need to dust off for yourself? It's that oxygen mask. You've all been on a plane. Put it on yourself before you help someone else. So it's our reminder. This Saturday night begins Elul, our slow descent. I'm saying slow because I'm not ready for summer to be over. Although this morning when I woke up and put on my suit, going to think I was doing a funeral early, the ground, the grass was still wet. My shoe got, the watermarks on it, and I felt like, wow, feels like Chag. Feels like Rosh Hashanah is upon us. So here's where we start to slowly descend on those holy days. And so let's remember the blessing and the curse. Let's remember to see others with clear vision and to help in ways to make our blessings more abundant, and to see that we can make the world a better place by ourselves, for ourselves, with others, and for the greater good. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you. Thanks for being here this morning. Elisa, Linda, Deborah, I can call you that. Debbie, Paula, Bet, Fern, Suze, and all of us that are here together. Let's continue to show up for one another. We'll see you back here 6:30 tonight. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Od Avinu Chai.